You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, we're back for another Tuesday episode of Cards to the Moon. I'm Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and with me is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John at Trade You at Recess. So off the top, I'm sure you guys heard the news, but the Wander Franco 2022 Top Series 1 Platinum card, a 1 of 1, was pulled this past week. And I think the most surprising to me, at least, is that it was pulled out of a pack sold at Walgreens, which is like a Shoppers Drug Mart for our Canadian friends here, right? So I don't even know all the details, but I think it was pulled out of a regular... Is that
confirmed, or is Walgreens sponsoring that?
Right. I think it's confirmed by the guy who pulled it, and I think I saw it on his Instagram. But yeah, I'm not even sure if it came out of a regular cello pack or...
It's like a blaster. I don't know. It was Walgreens. It is wild. The fact that you pull the 101 Platinum, the Grail of 2022, in a I guess retail pack. I guess
right.
With a lot of people, it kind of like they were upset at that, especially the true collector who like to chase in hobby boxes, for instance, right? So I just wish that they made the card look like better. It's like your 1 of 1 Platinum. It's one of the hardest hits to achieve in paper, and
it's like a normal gray card.
Yeah, it's just a gray card, right? Nothing shiny, no super fractor. But I believe like the 2011 Mike Trout 1 of 1 sold for north of $1 million or something. So it's a big time card.
1.1 million for a BGS 9 mint condition.
That
card.
Is wild.
Yeah, Mike Trout. So, well, that's a good segue. How much do you think this could go for? If, let's say, because these paper cards are notoriously hard to grade, get a PSA 10. So let's just say a BGS 9, just like that Mike Trout 2011 Topps Update Platinum got. If it was a BGS 9 Platinum 1 of 1 for Wander Franco, what's your guess?
Oh, man, that's tough. I got to say north of 100K right now, the way Wander Franco's playing.
Right.
I remember when the Tatis Platinum was pulled, the 410 paper, and I think it went for a lot cheaper on the initial sell, but I could be totally wrong. But I think it's going to be a big card just because Wander Franco doesn't seem like he's going to stop anytime soon. Like he's coming out the gates hot. He might win a batting title this year. Like he's special. Like we talked about, before he even entered the major leagues. This guy's an 80 hit tool. So the fact that the one of the biggest cards, it is the biggest card. Obviously, the Topps Chrome Superfractor is going to be just as big for 2022. So to see that being pulled. I don't know what I think about it being pulled in retail, though. Like, I think it should have maybe been in a hobby box or something, Like, but
the hobby snob,
I mean, if I'm happy for the owner, like, especially like if a kid pulled that at the end of the day, like that's a crazy pull. Like that's a life-changing pull, and it gives hope, I guess, to when you're chasing, when you're just ripping and. You're chasing, a potential payout. Yeah. Right? So, yeah, it's wild. Wild to see.
So, Hyung is the hobby box purchaser. I am the retail purchaser. So, to see that news makes me happy for sure. Because it gives you, as a retail purchaser, it gives you that hope, right? Because time and time again, I think in the hobby, it was kind of known that if you want to chase the big boys, you got to buy the hobby box. The big colors... The super factors, they come out of the hobby box. Jumbo, yeah. You might get a super or you might get a platinum 1 of 1 of some no-name Joe Schmo out of retail. But if you want to get the Luis Robert, you want to get the Tatis, like those are coming out of the jumbo or the hobby boxes. That was well known for a while. It obviously was just kind of like a rumor, but it was just something that everybody went by. But to see this, I don't know if it was done purposely to kind of push more retail product, but to see that, Topps, maybe they're truly like spreading it completely random, no favorite to any hobby boxes, no favorite to jumbo boxes. It's good to see, man. I think, I don't know, I you know, because I purchased retail.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really great to see.
Well, on a side note, this whole week, by the time this airs, we'll have given this prize away for marking our 50th podcast episode last week. But we're giving away a 2022 Top Series 1 Blaster box. So sorry,
nice.
if whoever wins it, you're not getting the one-of-one Wander Franco Platinum card. So you might get something else. We'd love to see what you pull if you do, but
I will say this just based on like people's comments and kind of the reaction to kind of like retail versus hobby. I think for Wander Franco specifically, a lot of people are winning in retail. You're seeing a lot of like parallels being pulled, like the blacks, you know, gold foil in jumbos, and then even true golds. Yeah. A lot more people are pulling it in retail. I personally ripped a lot of hobby boxes, and there ain't anything in there except for, you know, a bunch of base Wander Franco rookies. And even at that, it's one per hobby box. So I'm well aware of the rarity of the parallels, especially paper parallels. I mean, it's not the funnest rip, but I mean, if you pull a big Wander like an Independence Day or a Black, I think it's definitely going to be a game changer for kind of like your collection, right? So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me personally, I don't know how I feel about, you know, hobby versus retail, but it is nice to see that, you know, like the Top Series 1 box in general is affordable, you know, relatively speaking. So like a lot of people can get into it and then hopefully hit. It's not one of these high-end, you know, Panini Flawless or National Treasures we're talking about. So it's good to see that the masses have a chance to get some of these big hits. You can check out the hit. You can see the card itself if you check out at Jesus Junkies Instagram page. I think he's the one that pulled it out of the Walgreens store. And he said that it's already been sold to at 7th inning stretch _ on Instagram. And on their Instagram page, they said they just sent it off to PSA. So we'll see what it goes for. Yeah, like I said, like paper cards are hard to grade, right? Like,
very condition sensitive. Yeah,
you can see chipping or corner wear.
Right.
Yeah, so you know, hopefully it comes back. I'm guessing it'll be a PSA 9. That's probably my guess.
Right.
If he's lucky, but yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what it comes back as and what it'll ultimately resell for if 7th inning stretch decides to post it for sale. All right, let's move on now then to our regular segment we call Hobby Headlines. And this week, we're going to return to a segment we did early on when we launched this podcast, and we called it Hobby Logic. And to explain what Hobby Logic is, it's something, I don't know, like it's something that makes sense only in the hobby, you know? And we'll go through some examples, and I don't know if we have any new ones since we talked about it last, but and maybe we'll go through some old ones that might have changed because the hobby has changed. So I'll start off first, and you guys can come up with your own Hobby Logic examples, and then we can have a discussion. But one is like the Silver Prizm for, say, basketball cards, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the Silver Prizms are worth more still than colored prisms that are numbered, that are more rare. That could fall into the Hobby Logic category, right?
For sure,
like you think
for sure.
Silver,
and I think silver in general is the easiest parallel to get, right? Of all the
there's more of them.
I think the silver is like the most basic parallel you can get.
Yet, you know, for some players, it's not, you know, a colored to, you know, whatever, $2.99 blue might not be worth as much than its silver parallel, you know, comparing the two.
Right. I think silver hits different. I think it's a different, like silvers are, like we talked about in previous episodes, liquidity is a great example of that. Like people like it because it's different than the base, but you don't have to, it's easy to comp because you have everyday prices, because there is a certain aspect of rarity, but it's not as rare where, you know, you have buyers out of that loop, right? It's kind of in play for a lot of I guess, a lot of collectors and investors. So, it to me. That's always been kind of like a hobby logic thing. When silvers do, like you look at the print run, you're like 2,000 silvers, and then there's 40, maybe a blue refractor,
or like a ruby wave or something.
Yeah, or something like more rare. It looks different.
Yeah.
It's a great looking card, but then it sells for half of what a silver prism, sells for instance, right? So, I think you see that a lot in the hobby, but you could kind of. I always use it as, let's just say this whole card game was all said and done and we all cash out. I think long term, I think it will eventually correct itself. I truly believe that. Like, I truly believe that eventually that's the value buy, right? Because everybody's focused on, the silvers, and it shouldn't be selling for more than a rare card, because it should go down to the supply and demand. And I think over time, when, like, for instance, you see it in the more modern cards, the 2018, I'd say 2018 is when, like, that cutoff is, where you'll start seeing less and less numbered Luka cards and Trey cards available, and you'll start seeing more, like, I guess it just takes longer to, I don't know what my point is, but, like, I think eventually it will correct itself. Like, there's going to be a point in time people are like, this was stupid. But that's hobby logic, right?
Yeah.
That's pure hobby logic.
Silver is the classic hobby logic, because I can understand the concept, right? Silver is basically Topps Chrome Refractor. And back in the day when Topps Finest and Topps Chrome first came out, I think Topps Finest was either 93 or 94. Topps Chrome was 96 in basketball. And you only get 2 of these per box, and it's only the one parallel. That was the first time it was like sort of this parallel concept within high cards showed up. So I get it, like the OG collectors, there's an appeal there, because like the refractor, the silver, that's that original rainbow. That's the OG parallel, right? But then it's funny because not only is Prism Silver a hobby logic in that it's more expensive than other parallels within the sets, it's only in Prism. Like, it's only Panini. It's not like Topps. It's not like the OG Topps Chrome Refractor is also following that same path, because Topps Chrome Refractor is also very easy to get. It's the easiest parallel to get. And the pricing shows in Topps Chrome Baseball, it shows that it's the easiest to get. It's one of the cheaper parallels to buy. So it's funny how the OG was Topps Chrome and it corrected itself. But for some reason, Hobby Logic, Panini Prism didn't follow that path, and the silvers are like on a different stratosphere compared to other parallels like Ruby Wave and Fast Break that are a lot tougher to hit than the silver, right?
Right. Yeah, like, man, I want to believe what you said, Hyung, that it's going to correct itself, but when I first got into it, I'm like, oh man, these guys are like, I'm getting numbered cards, that's the. And then, after a second year of collecting, third year of collecting, I'm seeing all these silvers sell for a lot more than what I have. Yeah. And now finally this year, I'm like, remember we had that episode where, like, guys, should I get the Luka Doncic Silver Prism, PSA 10 or the PSA 9 of the red, numbered 299 or 199, right? And then I'm like, I'm getting the silver.
The silver PSA 10.
Yeah.
So I'm going for the liquidity now than waiting and holding on to it for whenever that time comes where people will come back to their senses and it will no longer be hobby logic.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they call the silver the gold standard, right? In terms of like knowing values and stuff. Like, why isn't Topps Chrome Refractor, Vladdy? Why isn't Topps Chrome, why isn't that the gold standard? Why is it only Silver Prism, right? It's interesting.
I think along those lines too, another hobby logic that I guess newer collectors are so confused about, because you think about like numbered cards. Let's take in Topps Chrome Baseball, you get a True Orange versus a Orange Wave. And there's about a 50% retraction on a wave. It sells for maybe like gold price or maybe a blue price. And, the True Orange goes for way more, right? And people always ask, well, they're both numbered to 25. So the rarity should, still be the same. And I still believe that like the shimmers and the waves, eventually, from the last time we spoke, I think it's corrected itself on some
A little bit,
since then.
I would say.
A lot more people are okay with, especially if you go into the F1 space and areas where it's not like the true baseball or basketball collectors. They're like, I don't care. What Hobby Logic, that ain't going to stop me. Like, I'm going to buy the rarity for what it is. Right. And then now you have like orange waves, in F1 selling for as much as a true orange or maybe a slightly less. But in baseball, it's like you look at like true versus wave colors, they're almost like 50%, and that's why I said it's kind of similar to I'm a true believer that it will eventually correct itself. Right. Because people won't use that logic anymore eventually, but it's a matter of when. Right. So,
yeah, it'll take some work and some influencing. The influencers have to get together and start talking about I don't know.
This is why we're talking about it in the podcast. I hope that Cards to the Moon, we are one of these we're starting the movement to
the
get,
trend.
people more wise to what they're doing. But
we start pumping and dumping a bunch of blue shimmers.
I think one thing I will say to that is like it depends on the different number of variations there are. Like if it's just a blue shimmer and a blue wave and that was it, then I think it'll more likely get closer in value to the true blue. But then like with these modern sets, there's like blue, I don't know,
right?
Aqua blue,
fast break blue, exactly. scope blue, or
totally. Like when it gets to be like there's multiple variations of the blue, then it becomes diluted, and there I can see the value of the true blue being much more.
Right. Right.
So, but you're right. I was gonna say, for some of the cases like where there's the orange shimmer and orange wave, I've seen those values start to creep up closer to the true orange and the true colors of the other refractors. So, that's a good one to bring up. John, you got one or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, this is I guess more recent, but I think Hobby Logic is kind of funny in that relics are considered trash, unless it's paired with an auto. But I mean, relics are in general as a collector, it is a very cool concept, right? I think when it first came out, early 2000s or whenever relics start to kind of show their faces, started with like game used jerseys, but now I think it's whatever. I guess that time that trend kind of has gone and passed, and now it's literally trash. You can get, like Aaron Judge game used jersey out of like a Top Series 1, and it goes into the junk pile. It's pretty cool, man. It's like game used jersey, a piece of his jersey, authentic on a piece of card, and it's considered trash. Unless it's paired with an auto, then it's okay. That's kind of cool. But relics on their own, it's kind of a funny Hobby Logic that it's.
I think Topps
trash.
really dropped the ball on that. I think a company like Fanatics has the potential to revive. Like I personally think that Topps dropped the ball on that, and a company like Fanatics, who is in sports memorabilia, can make card collecting even more rare by putting some of their memorabilia as part of kind of like the cards and reviving kind of like that whole patch autos and relics especially in the baseball, right? Like you see Flawless and NT obviously, lead the way, and RPAs are like huge in basketball, and even like in F1, I don't know if they have patch autos, but like it gains a lot more popularity than baseball itself. I think baseball is kind of like that no love, where even hockey, you have the cup RPAs that are beautiful, super expensive, super rare, and I think it's a matter of time before like someone like Fanatics can really step up their game. I look forward to stuff collecting like that, because it would be super cool to actually hit it like a Kobe RPA that actually has a meaningful jersey instead of a made up cloth to just make a card up, right?
Right. So, and information on the card that this jersey was out of this game or whatever.
Right. Amazing collection piece, I think. Yeah,
you're right.
But I think like to John's point though, do you think there will be a time where just the patch card will be valuable? Not with the auto. Yeah, the RPAs are. You know what I mean?
Right. You know what? Some patches are starting to make a small comeback, especially when you go back to some of the upper deck stuff like Jordan or Kobe. Obviously, those are some of the greats. But it's actually a good thing, as crappy as it has been, for Panini to, and these companies producing like player worn jerseys, or now they're even doing jerseys that have no relation to the player. It's just a jersey they probably pulled off a rack and then put it onto the card. So that's actually now separating and giving value to, you go back to some of those relics that were game worn, like actual in-game worn jersey, game used. Like I can see some of the more vintage game used jersey stuff that is starting to make a bit of a comeback. It's not, it's not an autograph territory by any means, but it is starting to make a bit of a comeback. There is a bit of separation between game used and player worn. So, silver lining. People complain about the player worn, but then the silver lining is it's starting to give some value back to some of those original game used.
True. But like present day, like that's why I'm still, for those hobby boxes that you get either an auto or relic.
I hate it.
Man, I'm terrified of getting the relic card.
You're always gonna get the relic. It sucks.
Still terrified about getting the relic, and this happened to me too many times.
I will say the relics seem to get better, obviously, with a better numbered. So if you pull like out of 10 relic, they actually are like really nice.
Sure,
like you see a multiple color, but then that's the point. It's like you're getting a bunch of base relics always, and nobody wants it. It's like just eliminate that
base
whole
relic.
concept.
Why? Yeah, numbered out of $2.99 white napkin. Like who wants that?
It's the worst, especially when you're ripping like Topps Heritage or Series 1. You want like something meaningful, and then you normally get a relic, right? And that's one of the worst, especially like retail. That's why I don't like purchasing retail, for instance, especially like Topps Chrome Blasters or like Topps Series 1 Blasters, where you're guaranteed a relic. And you're paying, the inflated, whatever price it is because you're guaranteed a relic,
Junk.
right? Yeah, it's just straight trash, right? So I'm hoping Fanatics steps up their game and makes it, gives it a little revival and makes it more of a collectible piece. That's what I'd like to see in the hobby for sure.
Yep, agreed. All right, I got a new hobby logic. I don't know if you got any new ones. We're revisiting old ones that, it's kind of fun to see if it's changed at all in the hobby. But here's a new one. I don't think we brought it up in a previous episode. PSA 9 cards, in some cases, are being valued under raw cards. Do you know what I mean? Like PSA 9 is considered a mint condition. And, like if you don't hit that PSA 10, it's not worth your investment now, right? Like, do you think that's going to change? What's going on there?
Oh, man, it's one. I'm not happy with PSA lately.
Okay.
I just think they're just giving out grades, and for the worst, though. They're not giving out 10s like people claim. We're talking, I've had multiple cards come back a 7 and 8, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I would submit it to SGC and get an SGC 9.5 or a 10.
Did you see, to that point, did you see one of the Facebook groups that we're in? The guy, I think, submitted like a Cole Anthony optic. I don't know, something.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah.
And it was a PSA 4.
4? Yeah,
oh
how?
My gosh.
And
Centering looked perfect. Corners look perfect. So everybody's was like, dude, it's because of the surface. But it's like, at that point, the card must have been bent in half. And there was no creases.
Right.
Like, how
there has
bad?
To be something like
even if
really
there's a couple
bad.
of scratches. Like, how could you be a 4? Like, to the guys, to the poster's point, like, you see Jordan cards that are like, corners are completely ruined that are PSA 4s, right?
Yeah, so then that makes no sense, and that's what dictates value in our market, right? So to see a PSA 9, which is in great condition, there's no reason why I would take that chance and buy a raw card for the value of a PSA 9. To me, that's an easy purchase for me. I just view it as, hey, PSA 9s are very undervalued at this point. If people are paying raw card prices thinking that they're going to sneak in a PSA 10, honestly, I personally think the game's going to change. I think it's insanity that we use PSA 10s as the standard, if you really think about it, just because grading is subjective. Like, it's not like we're using the same standards across the board. And like I said, there's no logic with it. And it's insane that I follow it, that I value these
Hobby
PSA
logic.
10 cards. Yeah, PSA 10 cards. So, and to further your point, I think, it's even worse on PSA 9s. Like, I think that's a great grade. There's, like we say as a hobbyist, 9s were always fine. And that was kind of like the saying, as a collector, 9s are fine. It's like super value. And that's when, you could potentially take advantage of good opportunities, I think, instead of picking up a raw card, and rolling the dice, because you got some, newbie grader that just learned how to grade cards giving me PSA 7s, like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell how my recent submission went?
I PSA 9s?
Man, not even. I'm telling you, PSA 8s. PSA 8s and 7s. I don't submit my cards if I don't think that it has a chance at gemming, because at that point
I'm picky about that.
I'm very picky with what I send. So that's why I know that it's whack, is because I'm experiencing this, and it's not only me. And this is a totally different road that we took this in, but I see this common with multiple people, like, complaining about the same thing, like a PSA 4. Like, there should be an explanation why my card got a PSA 4, right? So
Right.
That's one big beef with me with PSA. Like, you have no idea why it got the grade that it did.
Right.
Right?
And no response, no feedback, yet you pay $100 and something per card or whatever now, right?
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Johnny, you have any thoughts on this, or?
No, it's tough. I think it is definitely hobby logic. It's too bad that the PSA 9 just doesn't hold the value, because push comes to shove, it is a very, very mint card. And when we were collecting back when we were kids, that's what we didn't know about grading. We just knew sharp corners. Ooh, it's a mint card. Like, you got a mint rookie card there, right?
Yeah.
And those are all, those might not even be PSA 9s. It could be PSA 7s. So the hobby logic does come into play here. There's a lot, this is a multi-layered conversation, and we can get quite deep into it. But just on the onset, I get both sides. I get that it's underrated, but as a collector, collectors can be very fickle, just like myself. I hate looking at 9. I hate it. Like, I accept it. I accept low grades on a lot of my PC cards that I sent in, because that's like a forever. I just want it encapsulated. But for some of my, more modern cards or investments or things that I'm collecting, I hate seeing the 9. So I can understand why it takes the hit that it does take. Maybe a little bit too much, but I can see why there's such a multiplier for a 10 in any grade. SGC 10, PSA 10. And even, like we talked about, why BGS 9.5, even though it is the same grade, why it takes such a hit too, right? When they decided 9.5 is a gem mint.
I was going to say that too. Like, it's a similar kind of case where, like, why is BGS 9.5 so undervalued compared to a PSA 10, right? So, I don't know. All right. Do you guys have any other new hobby logic that you want to discuss, or even old ones that we discussed in the past that might have changed? If not, I got one more.
Go for it, Clark.
I think the chase, number one, the chase, hobby logic chase, as in, the young rookie is worth 10x of, like, the Hall of Famer from years past. That's been a staple chase concept since we all started back in the day. And it's still true to this day. When you look at Bowman First and you see you see Myers and Henry, the newer Bowman First prospects, you would know.
Oh, like Harry Ford, you got like Marcel Mayer, like all these guys that are outselling.
They're like 5K,
superstars
6K, 10K, and they're outselling guys from even just a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, and
it's the potential.
It's the potential. Yeah, that's what I always say. It's just crazy. It's like wild.
Human behavior, right? And that's never going to change. That hype, that like chasing that potential, the ceiling, all of that stuff, right? So,
and I find that, like, a lot of people discuss that point, John, is like, people are like, why would you invest in kind of like prospects versus
Marcelo Meyer versus Paul Goldschmidt or something like that. Right?
Yeah, somebody who's established a Hall of Fame career, right? And I think if sports card collecting was that linear and that black and white, and it's all about, stats and who the best player is, then yeah, that would be the case. But unfortunately, we live in a society that's driven by capitalism, by marketing, by all these different factors that we don't realize why, things become the spotlight of the current theme or the time, or like, for instance, a release of 2022 Topps Chrome. For instance, when it comes out, you're going to have guys like Bobby Witt Jr., his first Topps Chrome, and Wander Franco. And it's the anticipation of, what type of player Wander Franco can be. And if you do pull that orange or red, Chrome auto, you're going to go in that Acuna territory or a Tatis territory of historical crazy highs of record-breaking sales. So there's so many factors, I think, that that come into play where we totally dismiss, right? And we say it should be linear. It should be black and white like this because he has a better career. His card should be more. And unfortunately, our world doesn't work like that. No, so and it's part of that hobby logic, right? And I think as more people realize that, you'll find where the extreme value is in the long term, right? So, and with any IPO release, you'll see that there's a spike in prospects. So the rookie cards, the chase, the fact that there's a new release, all that plays into factor. But they're in the long term, they're right. If you look at the trends, I guarantee you'll win with the GOAT type players in the long term investment, even in vintage. You look at vintage cards, they are on a crazy bullish run, even more than modern cards, right? You don't have the volatility, and those are safe investments. Yet we still run to the modern cards.
I just think we like to live in the extremes, right? We like to go for that hot prospect with infinite potential, or we like to get the GOAT cards. That's it. Nothing in between. We don't want them. We don't want the Goldies. We don't want the Goldschmidts. We don't want the Arenados.
No,
we live in the extremes.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think we'll end off the segment there. I got another one. We'll save it for next time. But it's always fun to kind of revisit these hobby logic and what makes kind of the hobby fun in a way, because it doesn't make sense, but we live with it, and that's all we can do, unless we start to change people's minds, which I'm hoping this podcast will do for some of these hobby logic topics we've been discussing today. All right, let's move on then to our next segment we're calling Match Game. All right, we played this last week, I believe, and I thought it was fun, so I'm going to bring it back with a little bit of another twist. But for those who missed our Match Game segment last week, it's where I give you guys 3 cards or players or things, and then you got to buy one, sell one, or hold one, okay? And you can't buy all 3 or sell all 3. It's not. That's not the rules of this game, okay?
All right.
So you got to match each of. You got to match each of these to either buying, selling, or holding. What are you going to do? Okay.
That was directed at me, right?
He always breaks the rules for some reason. Okay. It's like,
I'll follow.
I'm going to buy these 2 and sell this one. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. All right. I only have 3 subsets. So let's start with the first. All right. Are you buying, selling, or holding one of these? PMG cards, Color Blast cards, or Kaboom cards? So it's a little twist. What we did last time, we actually chose players from each of the major sports. I'm choosing sets this time. All right. So
it's tough. Yeah. This is very tough. I like it though. It's very interesting, and
these are all hot subsets right now, right?
Man, right. I'm selling PMGs right now. I'm buying Color Blasts. I'm holding Kabooms.
Okay.
Interesting.
Why?
PMGs have a lot of steam in the last year. They're popular. A lot of people have given up on the Color Blast. Color Blasts were so 2021, I'd say, if that makes sense. But I believe long-term Color Blasts are great cards. And I think there's a hype for PMG cards right now. So I think you're gonna maximize on profit by selling your PMGs and go where other people aren't going. So Color Blasts aren't as popular, and Kabooms are, I believe, one of the strongest, I guess, insert sets in modern cards right now. It seems to be that way. Or I guess Kabooms are. I could be totally wrong, especially a gold Kaboom. Like, to me, it's like those are the kind of like grail cards that you want for the Kaboom. So I'm going to hold the Kaboom. I'm going to buy Color Blast right now.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Interesting.
John?
I'm going to I'm going to continue to ride the PMG wave. I'm going to say buy PMGs. And short term, I can understand why it's not a buy because it's just kind of been going to the moon. But I think long term of the three, PMGs have the legs to last and not just be a fad. I mean, PMGs have been around forever. It wasn't just a fad that happened this year. Like PMGs have been popular for a long time. So I think PMGs have that lasting power. Color Blast, I'm going to say is a hold. I like Color Blast. I like the print runs. I like that it's cases. I like that it comes out of only like chromium products. And I'm going to say sell on the Kaboom because I feel like Kaboom is kind of getting watered down now because you can get it in both paper and both like chrome style products. So you're kind of double dipping. You don't really see the double dip in the Color Blast, but you see it in Kabooms. So I think the Kaboom is, of the three, could be one that has just become sort of a fad and is put on the shelf. So I would say while it's still hot somewhat, sell the Kaboom.
All right, so slight variation. The correct answer is you buy Color Blast, you sell Kaboom, and you hold PMG. So we all have three different ones.
All three.
But it's funny because the reasons are very similar to what John just mentioned. I think Color Blast are out of the three, and I think Hyung, you mentioned it too, are a little undervalued and has room to grow. So I'm buying Color Blasts. Kabooms, I think, out of the three will become a fad, but has the most chance to become a little bit faddish, so thereby losing its value. And right now it's hot, so I'm selling that at a profit. And PMGs, I agree. I think it's out of the three, probably the most timeless. And I think if you hold it, the value will just continue to go up. So that's buy Color Blast, sell Kaboom, and hold PMGs. All right, next three. It's more of a baseball card question. Topps Dynasty, which we know John loves. Topps Transcendent, another high-end product. And Topps Triple Thread. I feel like it's a little undervalued, but it's kind of a cool set if you look at what they look like.
This is tough too. These are all tough.
This is tough.
So this would fill in, I guess, the gap of high-end baseball. For those that don't know, Topps Transcendent is $25,000 a case, which is crazy, which is insane. And you could pull presidents of the United States that aren't alive. Those autos, you could pull some massive cards. I'm gonna sell Topps Transcendent. You know what? I've given that a chance since the 2019, Transcendent. For me, it never got the steam that it deserved. So I'm gonna sell Topps Transcendent because it's a high set. It's like super expensive, and I don't think you're gonna get your ROI there. I think Topps Dynasty is one of the most beautiful sets that are so underrated. So it's a buy for me for sure because I'm bullish on RPAs in baseball. I think there's a huge future for patch autos like we talked about. And then Topps Triple Thread, I'm gonna say it's a hold because it does have the concept of the whole RPA. So I'm bullish on RPAs in general, but I just don't love the Topps Triple Thread designs, like the stencil out words and stuff, the gimmicky. So that's what kills it a bit. But I'm gonna hold the Topps Triple Thread just based on like my take on kind of RPAs.
Sure, I like it.
Right. Topps Dynasty is the buy, no question. That's an easy one. The sell and hold part gets a little bit tough because I don't know if I want to say hold on triple threads because I just don't like triple threads at all. I'm with Hyung. I think the designs are boring. They're lackluster, everything above. Topps Transcendent, some of them, they have those sort of like metal gold borders. It's kind of a gimmicky thing. It's not really, maybe not officially like a classic card. But in terms of like for your own PC, I think they look beautiful, right? But I could see why you can also say Topps Transcendent is a sell because, once the product comes out, it's really expensive and you just sell it while you can before it starts turning into nothing, right?
Yeah.
So this is where it gets tough, but I'm going to say, I'm going to say the Transcendent is the hold because at least for the PC, it can look beautiful. Who knows what the prices will be in the future. Triple Thread, I'm kind of biased. I just don't like the design. I don't like the product at all. So I'm going to say sell, but I could see I could see the argument of saying that it's undervalued and it could come up in the future. I could see it, but I'll say sell.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those orders that you guys mentioned. I think we're all in agreement with Topps Dynasty being a buy. I think fans of this podcast will know we're huge fans of Topps Dynasty, and we think that it definitely deserves more love. So that's a buy. And some of these RPAs are, or even not even RPAs, like just autograph patch, of veteran players look like very classic, very sweet.
Right.
And I think and it's relatively affordable. So that's definitely a buy. And yeah, I'm totally with you, John. I'm flip flopping between these
right?
these next two.
It's not easy.
I think it's subjective, like you're saying. I'm not a huge fan of the Topps triple thread look either, but I could see how it can increase in value once people see like, oh, this is like if you could see past the gimmickiness, I guess, of the Topps triple thread. It's like a cool idea. Maybe the execution wasn't that great. So with that, I'm going to say hold Topps triple thread and sell Topps Transcendent. Get with Topps Transcendent, you're either selling right now and getting a nice profit, or you're selling because you didn't get a good hit and you're just getting whatever you can at that point.
Yeah, recouping whatever you can.
Yeah,
totally.
That's the risk with Topps Transcendent, right? So yeah, I'm going to sell Topps Transcendent either way. Okay, last subset. This might be the hardest. I don't know. We'll see. More basketball related. Panini Prizm, Panini Select, Panini Mosaic. Which one are you buying? Which one are you selling? Which one are you holding?
I am selling Prizm because the other sets aren't holding any value whatsoever. Prism's the only thing that's holding value right now. It's insane. But I'm a buy on Panini Select. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of courtside field level cards. I think they have super upside to it once people see how rare they are. And I like their parallels. I'm a big Select guy. I was always a Select guy. We were always bullish on Select from the get-go until they really ruined it by bringing in retail. Yeah, which killed the product line. Too many parallels. But I do believe there's so much value in Panini Select. So I'm a buy on Panini Select, and then I'm going to hold Mosaic. And I only say Mosaic because there's a couple parallels that, like the Genesis, for instance.
Genesis, yeah.
Like even like John Morant Peacock, it started getting exotic with animals and stuff. But like those are I think unreal cards. They have so much eye appeal that I think they're going to hold value in the long term. So I don't like Mosaic as a set. In general, I think it's a lower end set that is second tier, but I think they've done a phenomenal job with parallels though, with Mosaic. So I'm gonna hold the Mosaic, I'm gonna buy the Select, and I'm gonna sell the Prizm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy Prizm. I think Prizm is still king. I hate to admit it because I'm not the biggest Prizm fan, but at the same time, it is what it is. It's still king. You get Prizm. Gets a little tricky after that. I'm gonna say hold Select. I think Select is still number 3 behind Optic. Some can argue it's number 2, but it's still up there with the big boys. Took a big hit in social media for all the reasons we've mentioned in the past. So the value has come down a lot, but I think it has a chance to come back at some point. So I'm gonna say hold on Select, and I will say sell Mosaic. I think normally I wouldn't say sell Mosaic, but I think Mosaic made a bit of a comeback this year. Genesis is continually getting a lot of steam. So Mosaic, I think the Zion year, it made its first retail run, and it was hot at first, and then it kind of died down, and then it turned sort of into trash. But I think this year, it's kind of finally making a comeback. So I think it's a good time to sell on Mosaic. And I'm also, from a design perspective, I'm a bit biased. I think Mosaic is just, the designs are way too gaudy. Like I don't personally like it. So for that reason, I think Mosaic is a sell.
Okay. Different perspective. All right. Yeah, for me, I'm also buying Prism. I just think the basketball card market's down. So there's still
Right.
good deals to be found in Panini Prism, although it's the most valued out of the three sets, right? So, but I just think because Prism is king, the bounce back is going to be higher for Prism. So I'm buying Prism right now for certain players. Um, Panini Select, you guys both discussed it. I'm more nervous about it than probably you guys because I'm selling Select. Like I just
I
don't
don't
think
blame
it's
you.
gonna. I just don't think they screwed it up so much. And like I'm thinking about how many more years does Panini have until they lose the NBA license.
Right.
Like I don't know if there's a lot of time left to make a full rebound. Yeah. So I'm bearish on the future Select. So I'm selling right now, and I'm holding Mosaic because what Hyung mentioned. I love Genesis. I love Peacock. I think those will hold value over time. And I agree. Like the rest of the set's pretty meh, but they do have some really nice parallels, which I'm, always looking at on eBay, watch listing.
Right.
Those like a LaMelo Genesis is like 1600. I think that's pretty good value right now,
Right,
and that could
right.
go up. So I'm holding Mosaic.
Mm.
All right. So yeah, that's our match game. Just wanted to throw a little bit of twist your way.
That
and
wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It was a good one. I like that. Yeah,
made you think, right?
made me think as usual.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We'll definitely revisit this segment with different choices for the future. Okay, let's end off this show then with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And this week, it's our Hot Takes edition where each of us will present 2 hobby hot takes and then we'll debate which one is likelier to happen, which one's the hotter hot take. All right,
Ooh.
So Hyung, you want to go first?
You know what? I'm gonna change mine. I know I said one thing. I'm
okay.
just changing it on the fly. It might not make sense.
Uh-oh.
But I'm just changing it because we kind of talked about this in the Hobby Logic section,
Yep.
where we talked about paper parallels and chrome parallels a bit and numbered cards. So I'm gonna go with paper parallels, right? In baseball specifically, paper parallels are undervalued versus chrome parallels are overvalued.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So paper parallels, I'm talking about. So we talked about the Wander 1 of 1. That would be considered a paper parallel. Obviously, the Superfractor would be the chrome parallel. So in paper parallel, in tops, for instance, you got the clear out of 10. You got the camo out of 25. You got Mother's Day, Father's Day out of 50. You got black out of 67. And then you got Independence Day out of 76. We'll stop at that because we won't go into more print runs, but that's your paper parallel. So those are undervalued versus your chrome refractors, your refractors, your pinks, your colors, your blues, your greens to 99, your golds to 50, and your oranges to 25 are overvalued.
John, get you up first because this is messing with my brain. It's one of those ones that are I gotta rethink it through.
Chrome is overvalued versus
Paper is undervalued.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say paper is undervalued. It sounds weird saying that because we all know how much black parallels and Independence Day parallels go for and clear.
Right.
But then you have the other parallels. I mean, camo is at a 25. I don't think it gets love like it should.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, Father's Day, we all know
No
those
love.
don't get love as it should. Vintage stock gets absolutely no love.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about vintage. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, based on the amount of chase that paper flagship has and how hard these parallels are to hit, people really only go after like black and Independence Day. They don't really, the other ones don't really command those big. I mean, it still does. If you hit a Mother's Day Wander, it's still big money. But in comparison to the print run of numbered out of 50, I will say the paper is a bit undervalued.
Okay. What about you,
I'm going to go the other way. I think, thinking about this, I think chrome parallels are overvalued. I think I'm going to make the argument based on the opposite, that I don't think paper parallels are undervalued. Like it's for me at least, a lot of these paper parallels are pretty lackluster. Like I don't see the big deal with Father's Day. I don't see the big deal with Mother's Day.
You can see why it would not be that popular. Totally.
Yeah. It's just like a different color border. That's that's the computer did, and it's not like anything special about it, right? So I think it's justified for some of these paper parallels to be worth nothing for the average baseball player, so for that reason I think I'm arguing that the other way, chrome parallels are overvalued.
That's I don't even know my answer, to be honest. I kind of want to just go on to the next. I guess for me, I was always the question was always paper versus chrome. Like before the whole chrome hype, obviously the market spoke and chrome won out. And I'm still a believer in paper parallels. I think they're so rare and so condition sensitive. And there's so many people have jumped on that chrome train, and a lot of people prefer chrome over paper. So I'm going to say paper is undervalued still. I think there's like the parallels that, the paper brings, they're actually like, for the most part, I would say Topps did a phenomenal job in 2018, specifically in 2019. I don't think there's any better parallel than those 2 years in terms of paper. Like hands down, they nailed it. And in 2020, they absolutely like crapped on it and made it look like absolute garbage. And I think that really hurt kind of like the paper parallel, and the love for chrome has increased so much, right? So I know this gets brought up a lot too with the true collectors, and a lot of people are OG in terms of the paper parallel. If you look at my collection and see kind of like where I make my purchases, I actually have a lot more paper parallels than I do chrome parallels, right? Because I do believe that they are undervalued still. And a sign of that is potentially the Wander Franco that's been pulled, the 1 of 1, right? And seeing the Topps update 2011 platinum sell for north of $1 million, that's a good sign that paper parallels still have legs. And there's cards like the Topps clear acetate. Like, I mean, in hockey, I know they have like clear acetate as well, and there's the clearly authentic in baseball. But I think the out of 10 parallel acetate clear is one of the most beautiful paper parallels in existence, right? So I'm gonna say undervalued on the paper parallel, but I don't even know if I like that answer. We'll see when I think about it tonight. I don't know if we
believe that it's gonna actually make a huge comeback.
So
but fair points though. I understand where you're coming from. All right. John,
okay,
you're up.
In the next 12 months, you will see no ROI if you invest in Luka, or you will see no ROI if you invest in Soto.
Damn.
These are the two classic kind of king of the hill, some would say overvalued superstars in their respective leagues.
You know what? I'll go first. I think you'll see no ROI in the next 12 months with Soto cards.
Whoa.
Because out of the two, like I love Soto. You guys know that. We all love Soto. Out of the two, like his prices are still relatively high, right? And I think he's one of those guys that you'll really see the breadth of his work when his career is done. Like you'll see the consistent 300 batting average, 30 homers. And right now, like there's so much expected of him right out of the gate, and you see those values already reflected in his rookie cards. So, and on the other end, like Luka's cards have been going down, and I think a rebound is imminent, which is why I bought the Silver Prizm PSA 10. So I think within the shorter timeline of 12 months, I think it's more likely we see Luka's cards take a rebound and see a good ROI. Hopefully, maybe it's because I'm invested in the Luka cards. Maybe it's a little bit of hopium, but
you know what? That was my original train of thought too, Clark. I was originally gonna say there might be more potential in Luka cards to see the ROI, but I'm actually gonna go Soto because I believe Soto's super expensive, but I also believe he's super expensive for a reason, and it's because of the rarity, and that's going to be kind of like your factor of holding that value. So I'm going to go Soto. I guess in the next month you'll see no ROI if you invest in Luka. Right. Not Soto. Because I just think there's so many Luka cards out there with Select, Optic, and Prizm that you're gonna.
Good point too. Yeah.
You're gonna see a lot more. I guess Prizm's gonna be your only rare in terms of parallels that I guess could hold value. But even then, you even see the retraction coming on Luka. But that's not to say that's a good buying opportunity where you could make that money, right? So I just like the marriage between Soto's cards and what they present and the rarity of Soto and the type of caliber player Soto is. I don't think when he was coming in 2016, especially his Bowman Chrome auto year, I think he got no love because Vladdy stole the show that year. Right. And Vladdy cards at 2016 were the hype. And Soto doesn't even have base cards, for instance, in Bowman Chrome. Just and then you skip... He just has the auto, and then you skip to his rookie cards. He was put in Topps Update in 2018, which is the later set. So even the Chrome, he missed Topps Chrome flagship, like the Series 1, Series 2, and he was put in Topps Chrome Update, which is a super rare set in terms of print run, right? So I think it's a perfect marriage for Soto cards to retain value and hold just because of the rarity. But I think it's good because I think it could go both ways, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. I brought up these two. Yeah, I brought up these two guys because you guys know these two guys are my next big targets, either now or all the way to the card show in June in Toronto. At the same time, although they're my targets, this little hot take segment, I actually kind of believe in both, which doesn't make sense, but it does make sense if I'm buying these guys for the long term. This is not, I'm trying to get into a big card that I'm going to hold and lock up in a safe. Of the two, I'm going to side with Hyung. I think Luka is the one in the next 12 months that it's possible you will see no ROI. Unless, something happens in this playoffs and he goes off and he win the championship and he's MVP. Obviously, we're going to be completely dead wrong on that. But if he comes out of the first round, you might see a little bit of a bump. But after that, I don't think you're going to see much. And I think it's going to take a lot more long-term investment to see Luka's cards start to go up. And there's a lot available, right? Whereas Soto, I think there's the argument that it's really high now and it's going to come down. I believe in that argument. But it's going to come down and it's going to take another season. It's going to, by 8-9 months from now, off season, approaching the new season, I think Soto's cards going to jack back up. So I think there is an opportunity to buy Soto at some point in the middle of the lull of the season. And then by the start of next season, I think you're going to see Soto cards come back up and start to, Soto cards are very unique. Like Hyung said, there's just not a lot of them available, and people are quickly snatching up the more expensive ones. So you're only kind of, especially for lower end collectors, you're only kind of left with pink refractors and rainbow foils, and even those are snatching up. So I think Soto's is one of these guys I could understand if you want to FOMO buy, and even if it's a high price you want to get in now, I can completely understand the argument. So I'm gonna say Luka is the one you're not gonna see ROI, and even though Soto's high, I think you can still make some ROI in Soto.
All right, cool. You're both
a
going to
good one.
see why you're wrong tomorrow when the Mavs win the series.
That's the only kryptonite, you know.
Yeah.
Luka goes off, wins like playoff MVP, you know, brings Dallas a championship, and his prices go bonkers.
Let's do a dead wrong segment next week, okay?
Yeah, for sure. I hope you're right. I have some nice Luka cards too.
You got Luka too, yeah. All right, we'll finish off this pick one with my pick one pair. So first, LeBron James Topps Chrome rookie card PSA 10 will hit sub 5K. It's always going down, you know, with the basketball card market. For reference, it's at 9K last sold. And I remember doing this pick one saying it will hit sub 10K. So we're doubling down now, sub 5K. Or the other GOAT, Michael Jordan's iconic Fleer rookie card PSA 9. Because there's not a lot of PSA 10s there. But PSA 9s will hit sub 20K. It was once 60K at the height, and the last one sold at 24K.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Man.
Do you guys know what the Kobe Topps Chrome PSA 10 is at? Let me try to check right now.
I want to say between 10 and 12. I could be totally wrong, but I would say it's around 10 to 15. I would think, but I could be totally wrong.
Topps Chrome PSA 10?
Topps Chrome PSA 10, Kobe.
PSA 10, yeah.
The base? Last one sold for 8,467.
Okay, so it's pretty low.
Peak was 49K.
Holy jeez.
Yeah.
That's insane. Man, this one's hot. Very tough. But I'm gonna say. Sorry. What was it again? Topps Chrome goes. LeBron goes sub 5K. I don't think. 5K. I don't see that happening. I could see Jordan going sub 20, and that's even crazy. I just, you know what? Just seeing like Drake and Golden just ripping boxes of 86 Fleer, and then pulling Jordans like left, right, and center, and good chance that one of those are PSA 9s. It scares me that, you know, that the old, I guess the junk wax era cards still exist and people are still submitting from it. So, and I'm worried about the relativity of MJ. For instance, if like LeBron keeps on playing, will he? I know this is not an argument that I want to make right now over this, saying who's the GOAT, but I just feel like LeBron James is like, he's not done. Like he's a different specimen, and he might have 10 more years in the league, which is insane. He might be playing when he's 50, and like I remember when that Topps Chrome card was sub 2K, and it was in November 2019. And it was about 2K, the Topps Chrome. And I remember not buying it, and I regret constantly. And I told myself it will never, you know, go below 5K. So maybe there's bias in that where my mentality still sticks with that. But I could see Jordan, Fleer, MJ, PSA 9 going to below 20K because MJ's relevancy in society today, it kind of gets lost in the mix. And I think LeBron's going to be around, so I'm going to say MJ PSA 9s go for under 20K.
Well, John, who's a known LeBron hater, was looking at you in disgust, when you were saying...
I know.
when you're making the LeBron argument.
That's why I had to make, you know, disclaimers, because I know John's take on my buddy LeBron.
Sorry, Clark, what did you say the Jordan Fleer PSA 9 is at right now?
24K last sold. Yeah.
Okay. I hate to say this because I really want to choose LeBron.
I already know.
But I have to go with the MJ. I think for me, no question, LeBron's immediate conversation about his legacy takes a bit of a hit this year. I think his personal legacy, like his overall body of work, doesn't take a hit. But I think that conversation about GOAT status certainly takes a hit. So, you know, LeBron at the worst, you know, at the best, he's up there with MJ. At the worst, he's on sort of a Kobe, kind of level, right? And if Kobe's PSA 10, I don't really see that going to 5K. So your logic will say there's no way the LeBron will go to 5K. I don't see that happening. As much as I'm a hater, I don't see it happening. And when you see, like even, for example, I don't know who it was, but I just saw an IG post by one of the popular Instagram guys. He was submitting. He's like, here's my next submission. And he's flipping through like his card savers. And it's like 25 mint MJ 86 flares. Like they look mint, right? So it's like Hyung said, like Pete, these high-end rollers are still, I don't know how many of these boxes exist, but they're clearly still ripping boxes and just hitting mint condition Jordans, right? I don't think I'll put my money that you're not going to probably see a lot of 10s, but I could see a lot of 9s continue to build. And as people see that, even if there are no 9s continuing to build, as people see this kind of hit the airways, it's going to affect it's going to affect what they think about the Jordan card in general. Like, oh, there's a lot of them out there, So I think that just in general, that could possibly make the PSA 9 come down a lot. But at the same time, man, I don't know. I of the two, they're both hot takes, but I'm gonna pick the Jordan. But man, if Jordan hits sub 20, if the PSA 10 is going for 100, 150,
you're gonna
200,
buy?
Yeah, like come on, like that's ridiculous for like a mint condition of one of the all-time iconic cards.
Yeah,
all right.
Man, I would be. I can't afford it, but I would say that's a buy at that point.
I was gonna say, you heard it here first. Johnny's buying a Michael Jordan Flair rookie PSA 9 if it hits sub 20K.
If my wife is listening, yeah, it's over for me.
Well, like I was just looking at the pop count, and I agree. Like the MJ, like Flair rookie cards that are being unpacked, like it's kind of scares me. But the pop count for PSA 9 is around 2,500 compared to 2,200 of LeBron James Topps Chrome. So it's not that far off.
Right.
It just, there's an appearance that MJ's cards are like, and it's still hard to get a PSA 9 for
especially
that
those old
clear
cards,
card set,
for sure.
Right? Yeah.
And the way PSA is grading these days,
I know.
it might be PSA 2s coming out.
So that's a factor too to consider. But it's going to be a sweep. Like I just don't, I'm saying this, but I'm like, the last time we did this, I'm like, I don't see LeBron's going sub 10K. So you know what? It's a win-win for me. If it does go sub 5K, I'm all in.
I'm a buyer. Yeah, I'm a buyer at 5K. I don't know if I'm a buyer at 20K for an MJ 9.
Right.
If that makes sense.
True.
Right.
Yeah. It does make sense for me. Yeah.
If LeBron's Chrome comes down to 5K, that means Kobe's Chrome is at 3K. That means the basketball market is very, very down. So at that point, we will all be buying up a lot of things if that happens.
Or the episode will be, is the basketball card market crashing?
Yeah.
And is it a time to sell all your basketball cards? All right. I thought that all three were pretty good. And this episode in general made us think more than usual. But it was another fun show. Thanks, of course, to all our listeners, all our subscribers who listen each week. We have a new show every Tuesday and every other Friday as well. If you like the episode, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars. And we'll see you again next week. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.